In the
Remember,
bustling
it's
heart
about
of
connecting with
Manhattan,
the
where the
customer,
skyline
understanding their
pierced the
needs.
heavens like ambitious dreams,
I really
Scarlett
appreciate
Mitchell
your advice.
navigated the polished floors of Elite Motors, a high-end 4S dealership nestled among the towering glass facades of New York City's financial district. The air was thick with the scent of new leather and polished chrome, a symphony of luxury that whispered promises of speed and status to those who could afford it. Scarlett, a young African-American woman with a spirit as resilient as the city's unyielding rhythm, had always found solace in the hum of engines and the gleam of headlights. Yet on this crisp autumn morning in 2025, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the expansive windows, she felt the weight of judgment pressing down like the heavy traffic outside. Scarlett's reflection in the showroom's mirrored walls told a story of quiet endurance. Her dark curls were tied back in a practical ponytail, her makeup minimal, just a gloss on her full lips and a swipe of mascara to accentuate her deep brown eyes that held the depth of untold stories. She wore the standard uniform, a simple black blouse and slacks, paired with comfortable flats that prioritized function over flair. To her, this was efficiency, a nod to the early mornings spent commuting from her modest apartment in Harlem, where the subway's rattle was her daily soundtrack. But to others, it was a mark of neglect, a failure to conform to the glossy expectations of a world that valued appearance as currency. Scarlett, darling, this is Elite Motors, not a flea market in Brooklyn, chided her manager, Mr. Harrington, a slick man in his 40s, with a perpetual tan and a tie that screamed Wall Street ambition. He adjusted his cufflinks as he approached his eyes, scanning her from head to toe, with the precision of a mechanic inspecting a faulty engine. We're selling dreams here, sleek, seductive dreams. How do you expect clients to envision themselves in a Ferrari if you're dressed like you're heading to a yard sale? Scarlett's cheeks warmed, not from embarrassment alone, but from the familiar sting of being reduced to her exterior. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington. I overslept a bit this morning after pulling a late shift last night. I didn't have time to enhance things. Her voice was soft, laced with the melodic cadence of her southern roots, transplanted to the north in pursuit of opportunity. She glanced at her reflection again, seeing not flaws, but the echoes of a life shaped by resilience, her skin a rich ebony that glowed under the showroom lights, her figure curvaceous and strong, a testament to the generations of women before her who had carried burdens with grace. Mr. Harrington sighed, his expression a mix of exasperation and reluctant pity. Enhance, Scarlett. It's about presentation heels, a bit of rouge, something to make you pop. Clients come here for aspiration, not relatability. You've got the knowledge, you know every spec on these cars better than half the team. But without the polish, you're invisible. Half a year without a single sale. That's not sustainable in this city. His words landed like rain on a parched soul, reminding her of the invisible barriers she faced. Growing up in a small town in Georgia, Scarlett had always been the girl with big dreams, the one who devoured books on automotive engineering, while her peers chased fleeting romances. College in Atlanta had been her escape, where she majored in business with a minor in mechanics, fueled by a passion for the way machines mirrored human potential, powerful yet needing care to thrive. But New York was different. It was an arena where diversity was touted, but often tokenized, where her melanin-rich skin sometimes drew lingering stares or subtle dismissals. "You're smart, Scarlett," a professor had once said, but in corporate America, image is your first handshake. Scarlett assisted a few walk-ins as the morning progressed, her expertise shining through as she explained a Lamborghini's torque or a Tesla's eco-features. Yet each potential buyer drifted toward their flashier colleagues, women with perfectly coiffed hair and outfits that hugged their figures like second skins. One client, a middle-aged executive in a tailored suit, barely glanced her way before requesting someone more attuned to luxury. Scarlett swallowed the hurt, channeling it into a quiet determination. She thought of her mother back in Georgia, battling chronic illness, with the same quiet strength constantly reminding her child your worth isn't in the mirror. It's in the fire within. Lunchtime brought a brief respite. Scarlett stepped out into the chaotic energy of Midtown, the honking taxis and steaming food carts, a stark contrast to the sterile showroom. She grabbed a coffee from a nearby vendor, the bitter warmth grounding her. As she sipped, memories flooded in of her first job at a local garage in Atlanta, where grease-stained hands were badges of honor, not detriments. There she felt seen and valued for her mind and skill. But ambition had drawn her to New York, the city of reinvention, where she hoped to climb the ladder in the competitive auto sales world. Returning to the dealership, Scarlett overheard whispers from her coworkers. One said that she has potential, but needs to step up her game. In this town, you don't just sell cars, you sell yourself. The words echoed Mr. Harrington's earlier critique, igniting a rebellion in her chest. Why must she conform to a mold that never considered her shape? Yet deep down she knew the game, in a society where first impressions were forged in seconds. Her unadorned beauty was often overlooked, her intelligence overshadowed by superficial judgments. The afternoon brought a pivotal moment. A high-profile client entered, commanding the room like a storm cloud over the Hudson. Scarlett approached, her heart pounding, ready to dazzle with facts and figures. But he waved her off, opting for a colleague whose smile was as bright as her highlighted hair. As the sale closed without her, Scarlett retreated to the break room, tears threatening to spill. "Is this all I am?" she whispered to herself, tracing the curve of her jaw in a small mirror. A shadow in a world of spotlights, Mr. Harrington found her there, his tone softening. "Scarlett, listen. Your looks aren't lesser. They're unique. But in New York, uniqueness needs amplification. Invest in yourself. A new wardrobe, some styling. You could turn heads and find opportunities beyond this floor. Think about it. The right man and life could be waiting if you shine brighter." His words lingered as the day ended, the sun dipping behind skyscrapers, casting long shadows across the city. Scarlett boarded the subway home, the rocking motion lulling her into reflection. She envisioned a version of herself confident, radiant, unbreakable. The seed of transformation was planted, watered by the day's humiliations. Little did she know this self-doubt would soon collide with destiny, in the form of a man whose hidden vulnerabilities mirrored her own. Scarlett stood before her apartment mirror as night fell over Harlem, shedding her uniform like old skin. She experimented with a bold lipstick, the crimson hue awakening something fierce within. "Tomorrow," she vowed, "I begin anew." The city lights twinkled outside, a constellation of possibilities, hinting at the romance and redemption awaiting her in the unwritten chapters. The following dawn broke over New York with a gentle haze that softened the edges of the city's relentless pace, much like the fragile hope Scarlett Mitchell clung to as she prepared for another day at Elite Motors. Having heeded Mr. Harrington's advice from the previous evening, she had spent hours curating her look, not a complete overhaul, but subtle enhancements that whispered of emerging confidence. A touch of foundation evened her luminous skin, eyeliner sharpened the intensity of her gaze, and she chose heels that added a sway to her step, transforming her practical stride into something more alluring. Yet beneath this veneer, her heart carried the quiet ache of unspoken longings, a romantic soul yearning for connection in a metropolis that often felt isolating. Scarlett arrived at the dealership early, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the metallic tang of luxury vehicles. The showroom buzzed with potential mirrors reflecting her newfound poise. She felt a flutter of excitement. Today her boyfriend Marcus had promised to visit and purchase a car from her, a gesture that could shatter her sales drought and affirm their bond. Marcus, A charming marketing executive, with a smile that could light up Times Square, had been her anchor since they met at a networking event 6 months ago. He appreciated her wit, her passion for cars, or so she believed. Their relationship was a tapestry of stolen lunches in Central Park and late-night talks about dreams woven with the threads of mutual ambition. As the morning unfolded, Scarlett's anticipation grew. She polished a sleek Mercedes, her fingers tracing the curves as if caressing a lover's form. Memories of Marcus flooded her, his laughter echoing in her small apartment, his arms enveloping her after long days. He had never outright criticized her appearance, but subtle hints suggesting she try new hairstyles or shop at trendier stores had planted doubt. "You're beautiful in your own way," he'd say, a phrase that now rang hollow, like an echo in an empty garage. The clock ticked toward noon when Marcus finally appeared his entrance, as charismatic as ever. Tall and athletic with warm caramel skin that complemented his sharp suit, he scanned the room. Scarlett's heart leaped. She waved her smile radiant. "Marcus, over here. I've got the perfect model for you, the BMW i8 hybrid efficiency with that sporty edge you love." He approached, but his eyes darted past her to the far end of the showroom, where her colleague Lila stood like a vision from a fashion magazine. Lila's blonde waves cascaded perfectly, her outfit hugging her slender frame, exuding an effortless glamour that turned heads. Marcus greeted Scarlett with a perfunctory kiss on the cheek. "Hey, babe, this place is impressive. Can I browse a bit?" "Of course," Scarlett replied, masking her unease. She led him through the lineup, her knowledge pouring forth like a well-rehearsed sonnet. "This one's got 369 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Perfect for your commutes to Brooklyn meetings." But Marcus seemed distracted, his gaze lingering on Lila, who flashed a dazzling smile and sauntered over. "Hi there, I'm Lila. Anything catch your eye?" She purred, her voice a melodic invitation. Marcus's demeanor shifted, his charm amplifying. "Actually, yes. Tell me more about that Porsche over there." As Lila engaged him, Scarlett stood sidelined, her words fading into the background. She watched as they laughed, Lila's hand lightly touching his arm, a gesture that twisted like a knife in her chest. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Scarlett interjected where she could, but Marcus signed the contract with Lila, the paperwork sealing not just a sale, but a betrayal. As Lila walked away, triumphant, Marcus turned to Scarlett, his expression a mix of guilt and defiance. "Scar, it just happened." Lila knew the financing options better. Scarlett's voice trembled, a storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. "Better? Or is it something else, Marcus? You've been distant lately. Is it me?" He sighed, pulling her aside to a quiet corner, the hum of the dealership muffling their words. "Look, Scarlett, you're amazing, smart, kind. But let's be real. In this city, image matters. You show up looking comfortable while others put in the effort. I need someone who matches my vibe and turns my head. Lila, she has that spark." The words landed like shards of glass, piercing her soul. Spark. Is that code for something shallower? We've built something real. Marcus. Or was it all an illusion? His eyes hardened. "It's not just looks. It's the whole package. You're great, but I deserve excitement. And honestly, sometimes being with you feels ordinary." He paused, then delivered the fatal blow. "I've been seeing Lila." "It's over, Scar." Time seemed to freeze, the showroom's lights blurring through unshed tears. Scarlett felt the weight of his words echoing the societal pressures she had fought against, the subtle racism that deemed her features less desirable, her natural beauty less exotic in a world favoring Eurocentric ideals. Marcus walked away, arm linked with Lila, leaving Scarlett in the debris of her shattered heart. She retreated to the break room, collapsing into a chair as sobs racked her body. The romantic dreams she had nurtured of walks along the High Line, whispers under the stars, crumbled like autumn leaves. Mr. Harrington entered his earlier advice, now prophetic. "Scarlett, I saw what happened. I'm sorry. But this could be your turning point. Reinvent yourself. Show them what they've missed." Wiping her tears, Scarlett nodded, a fire igniting within. She recalled her grandmother's tales of love's resilience of women who rose from ashes like phoenixes. That evening, Scarlett vowed transformation as she wandered the vibrant streets of Harlem, the jazz notes from a nearby club weaving through the air. She visited a salon, letting stylists enhance her curls into a crown of elegance, and shopped for outfits that celebrated her curves. The mirror reflected not defeat, but a budding romance with herself, a love story beginning anew. As the city pulsed around her, Scarlett's thoughts drifted to unknown horizons, where a man of actual depth might await one who saw beyond the surface to the poetry of her soul. Little did she anticipate fate's twists, where betrayal's pain would pave the way for an unexpected passion. In the glittering expanse of New York City's Upper East Side, where opulent brownstones stood sentinel against the relentless march of time, Alexander Hall resided in a penthouse that overlooked Central Park, like a throne surveying its kingdom. The year was 2025, and on this particular September evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of amber and crimson, Alexander gazed out from his floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's lights beginning to twinkle like distant stars in an artificial galaxy. At 40, he was the epitome of American success, a white billionaire whose empire spanned tech innovations and real estate ventures built from the gritty foundations of a childhood in Brooklyn's forgotten corners. His chiseled features framed by silver-streaked dark hair and piercing blue eyes that held the intensity of stormy seas spoke of a man who had conquered worlds. Yet in the quiet solitude of his home, he wrestled with an invisible adversary, the hollow echo of a loveless marriage. Alexander's journey to this pinnacle had been one of relentless ambition, a narrative woven from the threads of poverty and perseverance. Born to immigrant parents in a cramped apartment where the roar of the subway was a constant lullaby, he had learned early that dreams were forged in the fire of necessity. As a boy, he tinkered with discarded electronics in alleyways, his nimble fingers coaxing life from broken circuits, foreshadowing the tech startup that would catapult him to fortune. By his 20s, he had bootstrapped a software company that revolutionized urban logistics, turning chaotic city deliveries into seamless symphonies. Billions followed with accolades. Forbes covers TED Talks and invitations to galas where the elite sipped champagne under crystal chandeliers. Yet amidst this ascent, he had married Victoria, a socialite, whose porcelain beauty and old money lineage complemented his rags-to-riches tale perfectly. With her cascade of golden hair and eyes like polished emeralds, Victoria Hall had once been the muse of his affections, a whirlwind romance ignited at a charity event overlooking the Hudson. Their wedding, a spectacle in the Hamptons with fireworks painting the night sky, had been the stuff of fairy tales. But as years unfolded, the enchantment faded, replaced by a chasm of indifference that grew wider with each passing season. Now, 2 years into sleeping in separate wings of their vast abode, Alexander felt the sting of isolation more acutely than ever. The penthouse, with its marble floors and abstract art adorning the walls, was a gilded cage, echoing with the silence of unspoken regrets. That evening, as Alexander loosened his tie after a grueling board meeting in Midtown, he poured himself a scotch, the amber liquid swirling like captured sunlight in his glass. He sank into a leather armchair, the city's hum a distant murmur below. Victoria was out again. Another networking dinner at some exclusive club. Her schedule, a labyrinth of social engagements that left little room for him. He recalled their last intimate moment, a fleeting embrace months ago dissolved by her cool withdrawal. "Not tonight, Alex." She had murmured, her voice laced with fatigue, or perhaps disinterest. "We have our lives to live." Her words, though gentle, carved deeper wounds than any argument could. In the quiet, Alexander's mind wandered to the essence of love, a concept he had chased like an elusive algorithm. He yearned for a connection, transcending boardrooms and balance sheets, a partnership where vulnerability was met with tenderness, not transaction. His success had insulated him from the world's harsh edges, but it amplified the loneliness, a paradox of plenty. Friends envied his life, the private jets to Aspen, the yacht moored in the marina. But they didn't see the nights when he paced the rooftop terrace, the wind whispering secrets of what might have been. Victoria, once his confidant, now treated him as a fixture in her curated existence, her affections reserved for galas and gossip circles. As the scotch warmed his veins, Alexander reflected on his roots, the Brooklyn boy who had vowed never to settle for mediocrity. He had built an empire to prove his worth, yet he felt impoverished in matters of the heart. Therapy sessions in discreet offices on Park Avenue had offered insights. Communication breakdowns, mismatched expectations, but solutions eluded him. "You're a fixer, Alex," his therapist had said, "but some things require letting go." The idea terrified him. Divorce in his world was a scandal, a fracture in the facade of perfection. Yet the ache persisted, a romantic soul trapped in a pragmatic shell, dreaming of a love that ignited like the city's fireworks on New Year's Eve. The phone buzzed, pulling him from reverie, a reminder for an upcoming business trip to Silicon Valley. He scrolled through contacts, pausing on Victoria's name, contemplating a message. "Miss you," he typed, then deleted it, the cursor blinking mockingly. Instead, he rose and approached the grand piano in the corner, his fingers dancing over the keys in a melancholic melody, a piece from his youth, evoking lost innocence. The notes filled the space, a poignant counterpoint to the emptiness within. Downstairs in the lobby, where doorkeepers nodded deferentially, Alexander decided to step out into the night on a whim. The cool air kissed his skin as he wandered toward Central Park, the leaves rustling like whispered confessions. Joggers and lovers passed by their lives, a tapestry of simple joys he envied. He paused at a bench, watching a couple share a laugh under a street lamp, their hands intertwined. What would it take, he mused aloud, to feel that again? The park's serenity offered no answers, only the gentle rustle of wind through branches, hinting at changes on the horizon. Returning home, Alexander shed his suit, the fabric pooling like discarded armor. In the main suite now, his alone, he lay in the vast bed, the Egyptian cotton sheets cool against his skin. Sleep came fitfully, dreams weaving visions of a woman whose warmth pierced his defenses, a romance reborn from the ashes of complacency. Little did he know, fate was aligning stars across the city, where another soul, scarred yet resilient, navigated her own tempest. As dawn crept over the skyline, Alexander awoke with a resolve to seek the spark that had dimmed, unaware that destiny's path would lead him to a dealership in Manhattan, where love's unexpected engine awaited ignition. The day ahead promised routine meetings, mergers, but beneath it simmered a quiet rebellion. Alexander dressed impeccably, his reflection in the mirror, a mask of composure, yet his eyes betrayed a longing for authenticity. As he descended in the private elevator, the city awakening around him, he felt the pull of possibility, a romantic undercurrent urging him forward. In New York's ceaseless dance, where fortunes rose and fell like tides, Alexander Hall was on the cusp of a transformation that would redefine his heart and the essence of his existence. Amid the symphony of New York City's midday rush, where taxis honked like impatient lovers and pedestrians wove through sidewalks, in a ballet of urgency, Alexander Hall steered his vintage Aston Martin toward Elite Motors in Manhattan. It was a sun-drenched afternoon in September 2025, the air crisp with the promise of fall carrying scents of roasted chestnuts from street vendors and the faint tang of exhaust. Alexander, seeking a distraction from the stagnation of his personal life, had decided to upgrade his fleet, a new luxury sedan, perhaps something that symbolized renewal. The dealership loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the bustling avenue, a portal to worlds of velocity and elegance. Stepping inside, Alexander was enveloped by the cool, conditioned air. The showroom was a gallery of automotive artistry. Gleaming vehicles stood like sculptures, their curves catching the light in seductive glints. He adjusted his cufflinks, his presence drawing subtle glances from staff. After all, he was no ordinary client, his name synonymous with innovation and wealth. Yet today, he sought not just a purchase, but a momentary escape, a flirtation with the thrill of choice in a life otherwise scripted. From across the floor, a figure approached her steps, measured yet graceful heels clicking softly against the marble. She was a vision of understated allure, dark curls framing a face of striking beauty, her ebony skin radiant under the spotlights, eyes deep and inviting like midnight pools. Her uniform hugged her form with quiet confidence, accentuating a poise that spoke of inner strength. Alexander felt an inexplicable pull as she extended a hand, a spark in the mundane. "Welcome to Elite Motors, sir. I'm here to assist you. What dreams are we chasing today?" Her voice was a melody warm and resonant, laced with a southern lilt that evoked sunlit fields amid the urban sprawl. Alexander shook her hand, noting the firmness of her grip, the subtle electricity of contact. "I'm Alexander Hall, looking for something powerful yet refined, a blend of innovation and comfort. Surprise me." She smiled, a gesture that illuminated the room, revealing a depth of charisma that transcended the transactional. "Mr. Hall, you've come to the right place. Let's start with the Audi RS e-tron GT electric prowess with a soul. It whispers speed while cradling you in luxury." As she led him to the vehicle, her explanations flowed like poetry, detailing horsepower and torque with the passion of an artist describing brushstrokes. Alexander listened, captivated, not just by the car, but by her fluid gestures, her knowledge profound, weaving facts into a personal narrative. In that moment, amidst the hum of the showroom, an unexpected collision occurred. Her elbow brushed a display stand as she demonstrated the trunk's capacity, reaching for a prop. A crystal model car teetered, then tumbled toward Alexander's pristine suit. Time slowed. He stepped back, but not swiftly enough. The model grazed his lapel, leaving a smudge of polish residue. "Oh no!" she exclaimed, her eyes widening in genuine dismay. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hall. That was clumsy of me." Alexander chuckled, a rare, genuine sound that surprised even him. "No harm done. It's just a suit, dry cleaning will handle it." But she insisted, her concern endearing. "Please let me make it right. I can have it spot cleaned right here. Or if you'd prefer, I'll cover the cost." Her sincerity shone through a vulnerability that pierced his guarded exterior. In her eyes, he saw not the billionaire, but a man deserving of care, a novel sensation in his world of sycophants. Their proximity ignited a subtle tension as she fetched a cloth, dabbing gently at the mark. Her scent, subtle vanilla and jasmine, wafted like a secret invitation. She said softly that accidents like this remind us that even the smoothest rides have bumps. It's how we navigate them that counts. Alexander met her gaze, the air thickening with unspoken chemistry. Wise words. And you? What's your story in this fast lane? She paused, her touch lingering a fraction longer than necessary, then stepped back with a composed smile. Just a girl from Georgia, chasing the American dream in the Big Apple. Cars are my passion. They represent freedom, escape. Her words resonated, echoing his own ascent from humble beginnings. For the first time in years, Alexander felt seen not as a tycoon, but as a kindred spirit navigating life's curves. The encounter evolved into a dance of dialogue, her expertise guiding him through test drives in the dealership's private lot. As they accelerated down a simulated track, the engine's purr mirrored the quickening of his pulse. "Feel that power?" she asked, her voice blending with the wind. "It's like harnessing a storm, controlled yet wild." Alexander glanced at her, the sunlight dappling her features, and replied, "Indeed. But true power lies in the unexpected connections along the way." By the session's end, the smudge forgotten, Alexander lingered, reluctant to depart. "You've made this more than a transaction," he admitted. "Let's discuss options over coffee sometime." Her eyes sparkled with intrigue, a budding romance flickering like city lights at dusk as he left the dealership. Fading in his rear view, Alexander felt a warmth unfurl in his chest, a prelude to passion born from a serendipitous clash in the heart of New York. As the golden hues of late afternoon sunlight filtered through the skyscrapers of Manhattan, casting elongated shadows across the bustling streets, Alexander Hall found himself drawn back to Elite Motors, like a moth to a flame's gentle glow. It had been mere days since his initial visit. Yet the memory of that serendipitous encounter lingered, a subtle undercurrent in his otherwise structured existence. The dealership's facade gleamed under the waning light, a beacon of possibility amid the city's ceaseless motion. Alexander parked his car with deliberate care, his heart quickening, not from the anticipation of machinery, but from the prospect of seeing her again, the woman whose presence had ignited a dormant spark within him. Inside the showroom hummed with subdued energy, the air scented with fresh wax and the faint allure of new beginnings. He scanned the space, his blue eyes searching, until they landed on her, the captivating guide from before, now moving with an effortless grace among the vehicles. She wore a fitted ensemble, accentuating her elegant silhouette, her dark curls catching the light like midnight waves under a moonlit sky. Approaching with a warm smile, she greeted him as if no time had passed. "Mr. Hall, what a pleasant surprise. Ready to take the next step toward that perfect ride." Delivering with a velvety timbre, her words wrapped around him like a silken thread, pulling him deeper into her orbit. "Indeed," he replied, his voice steady, yet laced with an undercurrent of intrigue. "I was hoping for a more immersive experience, a test drive to feel the essence of what you've described so eloquently." She nodded, her eyes sparkling with a shared sense of adventure. "Excellent choice. Select something that matches your spirit, bold, refined, with a hint of untamed power. The Mercedes-AMG GT, I think. It purrs like a contented lover, but roars when provoked." Guiding him to the sleek black coupe, she opened the door with a flourish, inviting him into the leather-clad interior that promised intimacy and exhilaration. As he settled into the driver's seat, she slid in beside him, the confined space amplifying their proximity. The air charged with an electric tension. The engine awakened with a throaty hum as they eased out onto the streets, Manhattan's avenues unfolding like a canvas of urban poetry. Traffic parted around them, and the car's acceleration seamlessly blended control and freedom. She leaned slightly closer, her hand gesturing toward the dashboard. Feel how it responds to your touch. Every curve, every shift, it's designed to anticipate your desires. Her words danced on the edge of double entendre, subtle yet evocative, stirring something primal within him. Alexander gripped the wheel, the leather warm under his palms, mirroring the heat building in his chest. As they navigated toward the quieter paths along the Hudson River, the conversation flowed like the waterway itself, meandering deep and revealing. She shared glimpses of her world, the thrill of late-night drives through the boroughs, the way a car's rhythm could soothe a restless soul. She mused that there's something romantic about motion, her gaze meeting his in the rearview mirror. It carries us forward away from the weights we bear. Alexander nodded, his defenses softening. He spoke of his own escapes, solitary flights on his private jet, overlooking vast landscapes that mirrored his inner expanses. Yet those isolations felt less solitary in her presence, as if she were the missing compass guiding him toward uncharted territories. The drive extended into experimentation, a playful exploration of the vehicle's features. Pulling into a secluded overlook with views of the river's shimmering surface, she demonstrated the massage seats, her fingers adjusting the controls with deft precision. Here, let it ease the tensions of the day. She whispered the vibrations, humming through the leather, like a lover's caress. Alexander closed his eyes briefly, the sensation mingling with her nearness, her breath, a soft breeze against his ear. It's more than mechanics, she continued, her voice a silken caress. It's about surrender to the machine, to the moment. In that suspended instant, the boundaries blurred. He turned to her, their faces inches apart, the world outside fading into insignificance. He confessed that you have a way of making the ordinary extraordinary, his tone husky with unspoken longing. Her response was a gentle touch on his arm, lingering just enough to send ripples through him. And you, Mr. Hall, make exploration feel like destiny. The air thickened, charged with the promise of what could be, their eyes locking in a silent dialogue of desire and restraint. Yet, as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in strokes of lavender and gold, Alexander felt the pull of reality. The drive back was quieter, reflective. Each glance exchanged a brushstroke on the canvas of their budding connection. Back at the dealership, he hesitated, as she handed him the keys with a knowing smile. This isn't just about the car anymore. Her reply was enigmatic, a whisper of invitation, only if you're ready to accelerate. That evening, as Alexander returned to his penthouse, the city's lights sprawling below like a sea of fireflies, he replayed the afternoon's symphony in his mind. The test drive had been more than a trial. It was a tantalizing prelude, awakening senses long dormant. In her, he saw not just a lure, but a mirror to his own yearnings. A woman whose essence promised the romance he craved, wrapped in the elegance of shared discovery. Sleep came with dreams of winding roads and entwined fates, the emotional tension escalating toward an inevitable crescendo. The following days blurred into a rhythm of subtle pursuits. Alexander found excuses to return questions about customizations, inquiries into performance metrics, each visit deepening their rapport. One afternoon, amid the showroom's quiet lull, she led him to a private viewing room, where holographic displays projected vehicle simulations. "Imagine us on an open highway," she said, her hand brushing his as she manipulated the controls. The virtual wind tousled their images, her laughter echoing like chimes. He leaned in, captivated by her proximity, the scent of her perfume, an intoxicating elixir. Their conversations ventured into personal realms, her stories of resilience weaving with his tales of triumph. Life's like a finely tuned engine, she reflected during one such session. It requires balance fuel and the occasional spark to ignite. Alexander, touched by her wisdom, shared vulnerabilities. He rarely voiced the isolation of success, the ache for genuine connection. Her empathy was a balm, her accidental yet electric touch sending shivers through him. As tensions mounted, so did the experimentation. A late evening drive under the city's neon glow turned intimate, the car's ambient lighting casting soft shadows. She adjusted the climate, her fingers grazing his, the warmth amplifying the undercurrent of attraction. Feel the harmony, she asked, her voice a velvet invitation. Alexander's restraint wavered, the line between professional and personal dissolving like mist in dawn's light. Yet amid this escalating dance, he held back, honoring the commitments that bound him. Each encounter left him yearning, the emotional pull, a siren's song convincing him that in her arms lay the romance he had long sought. New York's nights grew longer, filled with thoughts of her, the city's pulse sinking with his accelerating heart. In the opulent glow of a Manhattan twilight, where the skyline shimmered like a jewel-encrusted crown, Alexander Hall approached his 40th birthday with introspection and quiet anticipation. It was October 2025, the air crisp with the scent of falling leaves and distant rain as he navigated the throngs of evening commuters toward his Upper East Side penthouse. The milestone loomed not as a burden, but as a threshold, a moment to reflect on legacies built and loves yet to be fully realized. Little did he know that the evening would unfold like a meticulously plotted novel, revealing layers of deception that would shatter illusions and pave the way for unforeseen liberations. Victoria had promised a surprise. Her messages throughout the day were laced with uncharacteristic warmth. "Can't wait to celebrate you, darling." One read evoking memories of their early courtship, when her affections flowed freely like champagne at a gala. Alexander, buoyed by this rare tenderness, had wrapped up his meetings early, his mind drifting to visions of candlelit dinners and whispered toasts. The penthouse elevator ascended smoothly, the soft chime announcing his arrival like a herald's call. Stepping into the foyer, he was greeted by the aroma of gourmet cuisine, truffle-infused delicacies, and aged wine wafting from the dining area. "Victoria," he called, his voice echoing through the expansive space, adorned with modern art and crystal accents. She emerged from the shadows of vision, in a flowing emerald gown that hugged her lithe form, her golden hair cascading in perfect waves. "Happy birthday, Alex," she purred, pressing a kiss to his cheek, her lips cool against his skin. The table was set impeccably, candles flickering like stars in a velvet sky, a bottle of rare Bordeaux breathing on the sideboard. For a fleeting moment, the scene evoked the romance of their honeymoon in Paris, where nights had been filled with passion's symphony. They dined under the soft glow, conversation flowing like the wine, reminiscences of shared travels, light banter about his latest ventures. Yet beneath the surface, Alexander sensed a subtle discord, a note out of tune in their harmonious facade. Victoria's laughter rang too brightly, her eyes darting occasionally to her phone, which buzzed discreetly on the side table. "Everything all right?" he inquired gently, his hand reaching for hers across the linen. "Of course," she replied, withdrawing slightly, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just friends wishing you well." As dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate torte adorned with gold leaf, she presented his gift, a bespoke watch, its face etched with coordinates of their first meeting spot. To timeless moments, she toasted clinking glasses. Alexander slipped it on the metal cool against his wrist, a symbol of enduring bonds, or so he believed. The evening progressed to the terrace, where the city's panorama unfolded like a tapestry. Stars pierced the night, mingling with the glow of distant windows as they sipped cognac. Victoria leaned against the railing, her silhouette ethereal against the skyline. We've come so far, she murmured, her tone reflective. Alexander drew closer, his arm encircling her waist, hoping to rekindle the flame that had dimmed. But she stiffened, pulling away with a soft laugh. Not tonight, Alex. Let's savor the moment as it is. Her evasion stirred the first whispers of doubt, a subtle erosion in the foundation of trust. As they retired indoors, her phone illuminated with another message, her glance away fueling his unease. Who was that? He asked, casually, masking the growing knot in his chest. Just work, she dismissed, slipping into her separate suite with a peck on his cheek. Alone in his room, Alexander pondered the night's nuances, forced intimacy, and evasive glances. Sleep eluded him, his mind replaying fragments, a pair of men's cufflinks on her vanity earlier that week, unexplained late nights at events. The watch on his wrist ticked onward, a metronome to his suspicions. Dawn brought clarity, or at least the resolve to seek it. Over breakfast, a solitary affair as Victoria had left early for a brunch meeting. Alexander hired a discreet investigator, a nod to his pragmatic nature. Days blurred into revelations. Photos of Victoria with a familiar face from her past, a college sweetheart, now a prominent financier, their meetings clandestine in chic cafes and hidden alcoves. The evidence mounted like storm clouds, shared glances, lingering touches, messages laced with affection that once belonged to him. Confrontation came on a rainy evening, the penthouse shrouded in gray veils. Victoria returned, umbrella dripping like unshed tears. We need to talk, Alexander said, his voice steady, yet laced with sorrow. Spread before him were the damning images, pixels capturing betrayal's stark reality. Her composure cracked, tears welling like rivulets on window panes. Alex, it's not what it seems. He's just an old friend, comfort in a world that's grown cold between us. But the lies unraveled, admissions, spilling forth the affair's duration, the stolen moments that mocked their vows. I felt unseen, she confessed, echoing his own silent pains. Yet her words rang hollow, a twist that severed the last threads of their union. In the aftermath, as thunder rolled over the city, Alexander felt not just heartbreak, but a liberating clarity. The betrayal, though wounding, illuminated paths forward, a romance reborn from ruins perhaps, with one whose heart aligned with his. New York's storms cleansed the air, hinting at brighter dawns where love's proper form awaited. The neon pulse of Manhattan's evening skyline cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the subterranean parking garage beneath Alexander Hall's Upper East Side penthouse. It was a late October night in 2025, the air heavy with the scent of damp concrete and the distant hum of the city above a restless symphony that mirrored the turmoil in Alexander's heart. The revelations of Victoria's betrayal had left him adrift, his emotions a tempest of betrayal and longing. Yet tonight, an unexpected call had drawn him to this shadowed underworld. Scarlett Mitchell, the enigmatic woman from Elite Motors, had texted him, her words urgent, yet straightforward. I have your jacket from the test drive. Can I drop it off? I'm nearby. The message, innocuous on the surface, carried an undercurrent of possibility that tugged at him like a tide pulling toward uncharted shores. Descending into the garage, Alexander's polished shoes echoed against the concrete, each step a metronome to his racing thoughts. The dim lighting painted the rows of luxury cars in hues of amber and silver, their sleek forms silent witnesses to the unfolding drama. He spotted her near his reserved parking spot, standing beside a midnight blue Tesla, her silhouette a study in grace against the utilitarian backdrop. Scarlett's presence was a beacon in the gloom, her dark curls catching the faint glow, her eyes luminous with a mixture of resolve and vulnerability. She held his tailored jacket, the fabric draped over her arm, like a relic of their earlier connection. "Mr. Hall." She greeted, her voice a velvet caress that softened the garage's stark edges. "I didn't mean to intrude late, but I thought you'd want this back." Her smile was tentative, as if testing the waters of their unspoken bond. Alexander approached, his gaze lingering on her, her fitted coat accentuating her curves, her presence a stark contrast to the cold precision of his world. "No intrusion at all," he replied, his tone warm yet edged with the weight of recent wounds. "It's good to see you." The words slipped out more honest than he intended, and her eyes flickered with something unspoken, a spark that ignited the air between them. As she handed him the jacket, their fingers brushed a fleeting contact that sent a shiver, electric and forbidden. With its low hum of ventilation and distant city sounds, the garage became a cocoon isolating them from the world's judgments. Scarlett stepped closer, her scent, jasmine, and a hint of leather from the dealership enveloping him like a whispered promise. "I wanted to thank you for the other day," she said softly. "Your kindness listening to me meant more than you know." Alexander's heart quickened, and the memory of their test drove a vivid reel in his mind, the way her laughter mingled with the engine's roar, the warmth of her touch as she adjusted the controls. He admitted, "You make it easy to listen," his voice low, as if confessing to the shadows. "There's a sincerity in you that's rare in this city." The moment stretched, charged with an intoxicating tension. Scarlett gestured toward the Tesla, its sleek lines gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Since I'm here, why don't we take a quick spin to ensure the jacket's journey wasn't in vain?" Her tone was playful, yet her eyes held a depth that invited more than a drive. Against his better judgment, Alexander nodded, the pull of her presence overriding the caution that tethered him to his fractured vows. Inside the car, the world shrank to the intimate confines of leather and technology. Scarlett took the driver's seat, her confidence behind the wheel, a mesmerizing blend of strength and grace. The vehicle's electric hum was a soft counterpoint to their escalating pulse as they glided through the garage's labyrinthine paths. She said, "This model has a feature you'll love, activating the ambient lighting, bathing the interior in a soft crimson glow. It's like driving through a dream." Alexander watched her, captivated by how her hands moved with precision, her profile illuminated like a portrait of desire. "A dream. Yes," he murmured, his gaze tracing the curve of her jaw, the intensity of her focus. The car paused in a secluded corner, the silence amplifying their closeness. Scarlett turned to him, her breath catching slightly. "Sometimes dreams let us escape the things holding us back." Her words pierced him, echoing his yearning for liberation from a marriage that had become a gilded cage. The air grew heavy, the space between them shrinking, as she leaned closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "You deserve more than what you're carrying, Alexander," she whispered, using his first name for the first time. A breach of formality that felt like a caress. His resolve wavered the warmth of her touch. A siren's call, urging him toward the precipice of infidelity. Their faces were inches apart, her breath warm against his lips, when a sudden sound shattered the moment, a metallic clank as if another car had brushed against theirs in the shadows. Startled, Scarlett pulled back, her eyes wide with alarm. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Alexander's senses sharpened, his heart pounding from desire and the intrusion of reality. "Stay here," he said, stepping out to investigate, his protective instincts overriding the haze of temptation. In the dim light, he glimpsed movement, a figure retreating into the darkness, the faint sound of voices echoing. One chillingly familiar voice carried the cadence of Victoria, his wife speaking in hushed tones with another. "Not here, not now," She seemed to say her words muffled, but unmistakable. Alexander froze, the realization crashing over him like a rogue wave. Was this the confirmation of his suspicions hidden in the underbelly of his own home? Returning to the car, he found Scarlett waiting, her expression a mix of concern and guilt. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I shouldn't have. This was a mistake." But Alexander shook his head, his hand reaching for hers, grounding them both. "No, the mistake isn't ours. It's hers." The moment of near infidelity dissolved, replaced by a shared understanding, a bond forged in the crucible of betrayal's shadow. As they drove back to the entrance, the silence was heavy with unspoken promises. Scarlett stepped out, handing him the jacket once more. "Be careful, Alexander," she said, her eyes searching his. "You're worth more than the games this city plays." He watched her disappear into the night, the garage's cold embrace contrasting with the warmth she left behind. In that fleeting encounter, Alexander glimpsed a path to redemption, a romance poised on the edge of transformation, waiting for courage to claim it. The city above pulsed on, oblivious to the seismic shift within him. As he ascended to his penthouse, the watch on his wrist, a gift from Victoria, felt like a shackle, its ticking a reminder of vows unraveling. The night had nearly led him astray, yet it illuminated a truth. His heart sought a love untainted by deceit, and in Scarlett's presence, he felt the stirrings of that possibility. New York's skyline stretched before him, a canvas of dreams, whispering of a future where passion could rewrite his story. The autumn rains had swept through New York City, leaving the streets of Manhattan glistening like polished obsidian under the streetlights. It was early November 2025, and the city's heartbeat pulsed with an urgency that matched the storm brewing in Alexander Hall's soul. The garage encounter had left him shaken, not just by the near breach of his vows, but by the haunting echo of Victoria's voice in the shadows, confirming the infidelity he had long suspected. Yet amidst this turmoil, another presence anchored him, Scarlett, whose enigmatic allure and quiet strength had become a beacon in his unraveling world. Tonight, as a cold drizzle veiled the city, fate drew them together once more, not in the sterile glow of a showroom, but in the intimate confines of her modest Harlem apartment, where secrets would unravel like threads from a worn tapestry. Alexander had received a cryptic message from Scarlett earlier that day, her words laced with a tremor of desperation. "I need to talk. Can you come to my place? It's important." The request, unlike her usual composure, stirred concern and curiosity. He navigated the rain-slicked streets in his Bentley, the wiper's rhythmic sweep, a counterpoint to his racing thoughts. Harlem's vibrant pulse greeted him, jazz spilling from corner bars, murals splashing color on brick walls, starkly contrasting the Upper East Side's polished restraint. Scarlett's building, a weathered brownstone tucked between newer developments, exuded a lived-in charm, its imperfections a testament to resilience. She opened the door. Her presence, a quiet symphony of strength and fragility. Her apartment was small but warm, adorned with eclectic touches. A vintage turntable spinning Nina Simone books on automotive engineering, stacked beside a worn armchair. A single orchid blooming defiantly on the windowsill. Her attire was casual, a soft sweater and jeans, but her eyes, deep and searching, betrayed a storm within. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice a melody tinged with trepidation. "I didn't know who else to turn to." Alexander stepped inside, the scent of jasmine and rain enveloping him, grounding him in her world. "You sounded urgent," he replied, his tone gentle, inviting her to unburden. "What's wrong?" They sat on a threadbare sofa, the city's muted hum filtering through the window, creating an intimate cocoon where truths could unfold. Scarlett's gaze dropped to her hands, fingers twisting nervously, It's about my past, and something I've been pulled into." Her story poured forth like a river breaking its banks, each word a brushstroke, painting a portrait of pain and perseverance. She spoke of her childhood in rural Georgia, where she was the only black girl in a small school, her love for cars, a refuge from the taunts of peers who saw her skin as a barrier. "They called me names, said I'd never belong in their world," she confessed, her voice cracking. "But I rebuilt engines in my uncle's garage, proving them wrong with every wrench turn." Her journey to New York was one of defiance, a scholarship to NYU, fueling her dreams of breaking into the auto industry. Yet the city's promise came with shadows, coworkers who dismissed her, clients who overlooked her expertise, a society that subtly favored lighter skin and polished facades. "I thought Marcus saw me for me," she continued, referencing her ex-boyfriend's betrayal. "But he wanted a trophy, not a partner." Alexander listened, his heart aching at her vulnerability, seeing in her the echo of his own struggles against a world judged by surface alone. Then came the revelation that deepened their bond, a conspiracy entwining her life with his. Scarlett's father, a charismatic but broken man, had succumbed to gambling's siren call, racking up debts in Atlantic City's casinos. "He was my hero," once she said, tears glistening like raindrops. But he changed, lost everything, including Mom's medical funds. Her mother, battling cancer, lay in a hospital bed, her treatment costs mounting like an insurmountable cliff. Scarlett had worked tirelessly to support her, but the debts had drawn the attention of a shadowy figure, a loan shark with ties to a local syndicate who saw Scarlett as a pawn in a larger game. "They found me at the dealership," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They know about you, your wealth, your status. They pressured me to get close to you, to manipulate you for money to clear Dad's debt." Her eyes met his, raw with guilt. "I didn't want to, Alexander. That first day the jacket was genuine, not a ploy. But they're watching, threatening my family. I'm trapped." The confession hung between them, a fragile bridge spanning their worlds. Alexander's initial shock gave way to empathy, his betrayals mirroring hers. He said, "You're not alone in this," his hand covering hers, the warmth, a silent vow. "We'll face it together." The rain outside intensified, a curtain sealing their moment, as he shared his own wounds. Victoria's infidelity, the investigator's findings, the crumbling facade of his marriage. "We're both caught in webs not of our making," he mused, his voice a low rumble of resolve. Their conversation deepened, and the apartment became a sanctuary where vulnerabilities blossomed into trust. Scarlett showed him a photo of her mother, a woman with her daughter's eyes smiling despite her illness. "She taught me to love fiercely even when it hurts." Scarlett said, her voice a tender hymn. Alexander moved and spoke of his mother, a seamstress whose dreams had fueled his ambition. He admitted she'd have liked you, a smile breaking his stoic mask. She believed in hearts that endure. As the night waned, Scarlett offered tea, the ritual grounding them in shared humanity. They sat closer now, the sofa a bridge between their worlds. She said, "I never meant to drag you into my mess," her gaze searching his. "But being near you feels right." Alexander's heart stirred, the romantic pull undeniable, yet he held back, honoring the line that still bound him to his vows. "You're not a mess, Scarlett. You're a masterpiece painted in courage." The rain slowed to a drizzle, the city's lights flickering through the window like stars emerging from clouds. Scarlett stood as he prepared to leave, her hand lingering on his arm. "Stay safe," she whispered, her eyes a galaxy of hope and fear. Alexander nodded, the weight of her secrets now his to share their bond, a quiet romance blossoming in adversity's shadow. Driving back through the glistening streets, he felt a shift, a determination to unravel the conspiracy threatening her, and perhaps to claim the love his heart now whispered was possible. New York's night embraced him, its pulse syncing with his own, a promise of battles to come and passions to ignite. In Scarlett's vulnerability, he saw not weakness, but a strength that mirrored his own, a romance poised to rewrite their destinies. The November skies over Manhattan draped the city in a somber veil, the gray clouds mirroring the storm that had brewed within Alexander Hall's heart for weeks. It was 2025, and the air carried the crisp bite of impending winter, as if New York itself braced for the seismic shift about to unfold in Alexander's opulent penthouse. The revelations of Victoria's infidelity, coupled with Scarlett Mitchell's haunting confession of her coerced entanglement in a sinister plot, had forged a crucible of resolve in him. Tonight, under the chandelier's crystalline glow, he would confront the woman who had once been his muse, unraveling the final threads of a marriage that had long ceased to be a sanctuary. With its stoic brownstones and whispered secrets, the Upper East Side stood as a silent witness to the drama about to unfold. Alexander paced the penthouse's marble floors, the city's skyline sprawling beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows like a canvas of shattered dreams. His tailored suit, a navy masterpiece that clung to his broad shoulders, starkly contrasted the turmoil within. The bespoke watch on his wrist, Victoria's birthday gift, ticked like a metronome counting down to inevitability. In his hand, he held a tablet, its screen displaying damning evidence, grainy footage from the Tesla's advanced camera system, capturing Victoria's clandestine rendezvous in the garage with her college sweetheart, a financier named Ethan Caldwell. The images were a knife to his heart, yet they also kindled a fire of liberation, a romantic yearning for a life untainted by deceit. Victoria entered, her golden hair swept into an elegant updo, her emerald eyes catching the light like polished gems. She wore a silk dress that flowed like liquid starlight, a vision of the woman he had once loved fiercely. "Alex, you're home early," she said, her voice a practiced melody of warmth, though her gaze flickered with unease as she noted his somber expression. "Everything all right?" He set the tablet on the dining table, its screen glowing like an accusation. "We need to talk, Victoria," he said, his tone steady yet laced with the weight of betrayal. "Sit down." The air thickened the penthouse's opulence, its abstract art, its velvet furnishings, fading into a backdrop for the confrontation that would redefine their futures. She hesitated, then complied, her posture, regal yet defensive. "What's this about?" she asked, her fingers tracing the edge of the table, a nervous tick betraying her composure. Alexander activated the footage, the screen replaying her whispered intimacies with Ethan, their silhouettes entwined in the garage's shadows. Her face paled, the color draining like wine from a shattered glass. "Alex, I don't," he interrupted, his voice a low rumble of restrained fury. "I've given you everything, my trust, devotion, and life. And this is how you repay me." He gestured to the screen where her laughter with another man mocked their vows. "How long, Victoria? How long have you been living this lie?" Tears welled in her eyes, shimmering like rain on a window pane. "It wasn't meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Ethan, he was a comfort, a reminder of who I was before this life consumed me. You were always so busy, Alex. Your empire, your meetings. I felt invisible." Her words stung, echoing his own loneliness, yet they rang hollow against the backdrop of her betrayal. Invisible. He countered, his eyes blazing with sorrow and resolve. "I built this world for us, Victoria. I honored our vows even when they became chains. But you chose to break them to weave a romance with another, while I stood by hoping for us." She rose, reaching for him, her hands trembling. "Please, Alex. I know I've erred, but we can fix this. I'll end it with Ethan. We can start over. Have the family you wanted, the children. I'll give you everything." Her plea was a desperate sonnet, each word a note in a fading melody. She stepped closer, her perfume a haunting echo of their past. But Alexander recoiled, the space between them, a chasm no bridge could span. "No, Victoria," he said, his voice resolute, cutting through the air like a blade. "You've made your choice, and I've made mine. I want a love that doesn't barter trust for convenience. We're done." He slid a folder across the table, divorce papers prepared by his attorney, with surgical precision. "Sign them. Let's end this with dignity." Her sobs filled the room, a torrent of regret that couldn't wash away the truth. "I never meant to lose you," she cried, her hands clutching the papers as if they were a lifeline. "Please, one more chance." But Alexander's heart, once tethered to her, now yearned for a different horizon, one where authenticity reigned, where love was a dance of mutual vulnerability. The confrontation culminated in a courtroom on a crisp morning. Days later, the Manhattan skyline looming through the windows like a jury of silent giants. The divorce proceedings were swift, the evidence irrefutable. Victoria, flanked by her attorney, signed the papers with trembling hands. Her eyes averted, the weight of her choices etched in her features. Alexander felt no triumph, only a quiet emancipation as the judge's gavel fell, severing their union like a thread snipped from a loom. In the aftermath, as he stepped onto the courthouse steps, the city air felt cleaner, infused with possibility. Scarlett's face flashed in his mind, not as a temptation, but a beacon of hope. Her struggles, revealed in her Harlem apartment, had intertwined their fates, her courage mirroring his own. He had promised to help her navigate the syndicate's threats, and now, free from his marital shackles, he could honor that vow. Driving through the city, the skyscrapers gleaming like promises, Alexander felt a romantic surge, a desire to build a new chapter where love was not a transaction, but a symphony of shared dreams. Scarlett, meanwhile, had taken a bold step of her own. Informed of his decision, she met him at a quiet cafe in Soho, her presence a balm to his weary soul. "I'm quitting the dealership," she revealed, her voice steady, despite the weight of her words. "I can't stay where I'm used as a pawn. My mother's condition is worsening, and I need to be with her, maybe even take her abroad for treatment." Her eyes, luminous with resolve, met his. "You've given me strength, Alexander, to face my truths." He reached for her hand, the touch grounding them both. "You're not alone, Scarlett. I'll help with your mother's costs. Consider it a gesture, not a debt. Your heart deserves to soar, not be caged by others' schemes." Her gratitude was a silent sonnet, their bond deepening in the quiet intimacy of the moment. As they parted, the city's pulse seemed to sync with their own, a rhythm of renewal. Alexander drove home under a sky streaked with sunset, the colors promising brighter days. The divorce had freed him from Victoria and opened his heart to a romance that felt like destiny, one he would pursue with the fervor of a man reborn. With its endless possibilities, New York whispered of a future where love could bloom unencumbered, a melody waiting to be played. 2 years had woven their magic over New York City, transforming the Manhattan skyline with new spires, reaching for the heavens, much like the dreams carrying Scarlett Mitchell across oceans and back. It was November 2027, and the city thrummed with the vibrant energy of late autumn, its streets alive with the scent of roasted chestnuts and the laughter of holiday shoppers. Scarlett, now a vision of radiant confidence, stood in the heart of Elite Motors' newly renovated showroom. Her presence, a testament to resilience and reinvention. Her ebony skin glowed under the showroom's soft lights, her curls styled in an elegant cascade, her tailored suit accentuating a poise that spoke of hard-won triumphs. She had returned from Europe, where she had pursued advanced studies in automotive design, her mother's passing a bittersweet catalyst for her transformation. The scars of her past poverty, betrayal, coercion had forged a woman whose beauty was not just skin-deep, but a luminous tapestry of courage and grace. Alexander Hall, now 42, had spent those 2 years reshaping his world. The divorce from Victoria had been a liberation, allowing him to channel his energies into philanthropy and innovation, and his tech empire expanded to include sustainable urban solutions. Yet his heart remained tethered to a memory, the woman whose vulnerability and strength had awakened a passion he thought lost. He had followed Scarlett's journey from afar, her updates sparse, but cherished each email a spark that kept the flame of possibility alive. Now on a whim, born of nostalgia, he returned to Elite Motors, ostensibly to browse the latest models but secretly hoping to glimpse the woman who had haunted his dreams. The showroom was a cathedral of modernity, its vehicles gleaming like jewels under LED lights. Alexander, dressed in a charcoal suit that complemented his silver-streaked hair, moved with the quiet assurance of a man at peace with his path. His blue eyes scanned the space, seeking the familiar figure that had once turned a test drive into a dance of souls. Then he saw her standing beside a sleek electric hypercar, her smile as radiant as the city's dawn. Scarlett's eyes met his recognition, sparking like a flare in the night, and time seemed to pause the world, shrinking to the space between them. "Mr. Hall," she greeted, her voice a melody that stirred memories of their shared moments. Or should I say, Alexander. "It's been a while." Her tone was warm, laced with a playful confidence that spoke of her transformation. She was no longer the uncertain woman of 2 years ago. She was a phoenix risen from ashes, her presence commanding yet inviting. "Scarlett," he replied, his voice husky with emotion. "You're breathtaking." The words slipped out unguarded, and her laughter was a chime, bright and genuine. "I see that Europe was kind to you," he added, stepping closer, the air charged with a familiar electricity between them. She tilted her head, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "And New York's been kind to you. This car," she gestured to the hypercar, its lines sleek as a lover's promise, "is perfect for a man who's conquered empires but still seeks adventure." Her words were a bridge reconnecting their past to this vibrant present, and Alexander felt his heart leap, a romantic tide pulling him toward her. They wandered through the showroom, their conversation a seamless past and present weave. Scarlett shared tales of her time in Paris, where she'd studied under renowned designers, her passion for cars evolving into a vision for sustainable mobility. She admitted that "I learned to love myself there," her voice soft yet resolute, "to see my worth beyond others' judgments." Alexander listened, captivated by her growth, and shared his journey funding clinics for underserved communities, inspired by her mother's struggle. "You changed me, Scarlett," he confessed, his gaze unwavering. "You showed me what courage looks like." The reunion deepened as they stepped outside the city's evening pulse enveloping them. They strolled along Fifth Avenue, the holiday lights twinkling like stars fallen to earth. Scarlett's laughter mingled with the street musicians' melodies, her presence a melody. At a quiet corner cafe they sat, coffee steaming between them, the intimacy of their shared past resurfacing like a tide. She said, "I thought of you often," her fingers brushing his across the table, "and wondering if our paths would cross again." Alexander's heart swelled, the years of separation melting away. "I never stopped hoping," he admitted, his voice a vow. "You were my what if, the possibility I couldn't let go." Emboldened by the city's fearless energy, he leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. Scarlett, I've spent 2 years building a life free of shadows. I want to make one with you if you have me. Her breath caught her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, not of sorrow, but of joy. Alexander Furr came back to New York for a reason, not just for work, but for the chance of us. She reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining like vines, reclaiming a forgotten garden. Let's write this chapter together. The night unfolded in a dance of rediscovery. They walked through Central Park, its paths aglow with fairy lights, sharing dreams under a sky that seemed to bless their reunion. Alexander, once bound by duty, now pursued Scarlett with a fervor that eclipsed his past hesitations. He gifted her a pendant, a delicate star etched with their initials, a symbol of their constellation reborn. She accepted it with a kiss soft yet searing, sealing their pact under the city's watchful gaze. As dawn broke, painting the skyline in hues of rose and gold, they stood atop a rooftop overlooking Manhattan, the world at their feet. Scarlett nestled against him, her warmth a promise of forever. "This is our beginning," she whispered, her voice a song of hope. Alexander held her close, the city's heartbeat syncing with theirs, a romantic symphony transcending time and trials. Their love, forged in adversity and tempered by time, was a testament to New York's magic, a city where broken hearts found redemption, where souls collided to create something eternal. As the sun rose, casting its light on their entwined figures, Alexander knew he had found not just a partner, but a home in Scarlett's heart, a romance that would illuminate their days like the city's endless lights. If this tale of love and redemption moved you, let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, emotions, and stories of second chances. Like and share this story to spread the magic of Scarlett and Alexander's journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt tales that capture the romance of New York and beyond. Join our community, and let's keep the love alive.